Hello, lovely beings. I'm JJ Rose, wishing all of you a fantastical day. I wanted to talk about friendship and the fact that it's a little bit of a lost art. And some of you might be thinking, why are you talking about something as mundane as friendship when most of the stuff that I do is more spiritual? But the reason is because when you are of the light and putting your hand to the plow and becoming a light worker, you therefore are going out in the world and having to make friends. And whether that friendship is you meet the person one time and that's it, or they become a lifelong friend, whatever the case may be, it's extremely important to understand what it means to be a true friend and how to be a true friend. Now, with full disclosure, I have actually been working on this episode for about 2 months. I originally got the download to do it, wrote some stuff down that came through, got very excited, went to record, everything went haywire. And then it turned into this comedy of errors where all these life things happened with different friends and people in my life. And it was one thing after another showing me the importance of being a true friend and understanding what friendship really is, truly is, and the importance thereof, especially in the times that we live in right now. So I'm going to start off with traits of a true friend. And I do want to give credit to a dear friend of mine, Kat at the Paranormal Heart podcast, who was kind enough to take the time and energy to actually go through some of these traits with me and let me bounce some ideas off of her. So Kat, I love you and I very much appreciate your time and your energy, my friend. And that goes into the first trait of being a true friend, is someone who takes the time and energy to get to know you. It's very easy to be a sunshine friend, which means you're just around for the good times. You don't really care who the person is, you're there to have fun, and that's about it. You don't want anything deeper. But someone who actually takes the time and the energy to get to know you, to get to know who you are, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, where did you come from, your background, your history, what makes you tick, what drives you, all those little things. That's someone, and that is a trait of a true friend. Number 2 is no agenda. They just want to be your friend. There's no hidden agenda where they look good being your friend, or it puts them in a positive light, or it gives them clout, or they get something because they're friends with you. Literally, they just want to be your friend. There's no agenda whatsoever. The next trait is someone to listen and give advice when appropriate. And I'm going to go back to someone to listen because that is something that I feel like so many people miss nowadays. We're all out there trying to be heard, but how many times are we actually hearing somebody else? Listening, understanding what it is that they're saying, reading between the lines, asking those questions so that we're actually getting the full picture of what it is that they're trying to say and or convey. And giving advice when appropriate. It's not always appropriate to give advice. And I am going to go into a little bit of deeper on all of these in a minute. The next trait is someone who can be honest and someone who won't judge you. And one of the biggest things, and one of my dear friends, we were talking about this, and I asked her, what does it mean to you, to have a true friend? What's a quality or a trait? And she looked at me and we stopped walking, and she said, someone I can be vulnerable with. And that really, really hit me, because when you can be vulnerable with somebody, that takes an immense amount of trust, especially in today's day and age, right? Where no one wants to be vulnerable. So being a true friend is someone that not only you can be vulnerable with, but they can also be vulnerable with you. And there is no judgment. They understand we're all human. We make mistakes. Sometimes we do smart things, sometimes not so smart things. And we've all done things in our life that we maybe wish we didn't, but we did. And being honest with, and them being able to be honest with you. Honesty can be really, really difficult, especially when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of things maybe you'd rather not talk about, or again, things that make you vulnerable. But feeling that you can be completely honest with this other person, and they can be honest with you, and there is going to be no judgment. Number 5, they're your cheerleader, you're their cheerleader. They want what's best for you, and they promote self-confidence within their friends. A true friend is never going to put you down. They're going to help lift you up. They're not going to make you feel like doo-doo. They're going to make you rise up and see the good in the situation, even if it's a nasty situation, right? There's sometimes when it's hard to be someone's cheerleader, right? Especially if they're not doing the best. But if they're able to help you with that self-confidence, if they really want what's best for you, and they want to ride those up waves with you just as much as they're there for you to grab your hand when you're falling down. Number 6 trait is unconditional love. And again, they have your best interest at heart. And unconditional love, it's kind of funny. I just always thought that meant the same thing across the board, but I'm learning that means different things to different people. Unconditional love means no matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, who you've been, and where you're at right now, where you've come from or where you're going, they still love you regardless of all the faults, all the shortcomings. They still love you through it all. And number 7, they're reliable and they don't treat you like an option. Someone who at the end of the day, if you had to call them at 3 a.m. from some random place, either needing help or getting a ride or getting through a situation, you can count on them. And that they don't treat you like an option, as in you aren't an optional friend. You aren't their friend when it behooves and serves them only, that it's reciprocal. It goes both ways. So now that we've gone over the traits of a true friend, I want to go over some sticking points. And these are going to apply to everyone differently. They may apply to people in your past. They may apply to you. They may apply to people that you know current day. But I think that they're very important to review. Because with me, anytime Spirit makes it a point to ask me to do something, I'm going to do it. But also, I'm seeing it over and over and over again. And I think it's really, really important to speak on it when I keep seeing it, because that means it's a much larger problem or issue. Sorry, not problem, issue. And I've been seeing it in society, and it's not so much, I'm not going to blame social media for everything, but we live in a time where so many people are used to instant gratification. We're used to being able to go online and we're able to see who's available, right? And strike up a conversation immediately. We are used to being able to post whatever's going on with us and then wait for the comments or people to reach out. It's very instant. And as a result, we get these expectations at times that don't necessarily match what true friendship is. In fact, they end up resembling a little bit more of narcissistic traits. So I'm going to go through a few things that I feel are really, really important for having good, solid friendships, whether it's making friends or working on your existing friendships, and expound into them as to why I feel so important about even talking about this at this amount of length. So one of the first things, in order for you to be a true friend to someone else, you have to know yourself. And I mean really know yourself, okay? I don't mean, oh yeah, I know who I am. No. You have to know you're good, you're bad, and you're ugly. You need to know what triggers you. You need to know what parts of your personality can be perhaps not taken well by others, especially if they don't understand. You need to know how you come across. Some of us who suffer with RBF, it's a real thing. I sometimes have to realize that, sometimes my face doesn't always match what I'm feeling on the inside. And so I've made a definite large stride in order to make sure that I'm smiling, or that at least my resting face doesn't look so intense sometimes. The reason why it's important to know yourself is if you're going to be a genuine friend to someone else, if you're going to dish it out, you have to be able to take it. And part of being able to take it is knowing yourself. If you're not able to take constructive criticism, if you're not able to take someone else telling you, hey, it really hurt my feelings when you did XYZ, or are you upset with me? And instead of just blowing up at them and being like, why would you even think that? Instead going, hey, I'm honestly curious, why would you think I'm mad at you? No, of course. If I was upset with you, I'd talk to you about it. If you know yourself well, you'll be able to calm yourself down and say, oh, okay, it might have been because I was feeling like this at the time, or I had this going on in my mind. And being able to take that constructive criticism from somebody else without just going nuclear is extremely important. And I know a lot of people, and I could tell you, most people out there don't know themselves well. They say they do, but they really, really don't. And when they get called on some of their stuff, even nicely, they lose it. And they deflect, and they will call you all sorts of things. That's really how they are, because they are deflecting. And honestly, no one needs that abuse. So get to know yourself and stop putting out all your ugly on other people. The next trait is being able to communicate your needs, but being respectful of others. And I have a couple short phrases to really sink this home. And one of them is verbal vomit. Okay? There are people who just verbal vomit all of their emotions everywhere. They do not care who it hits. They're feeling something and blah, 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 out of their mouth it comes. And they're extremely insensitive to how it's going to be received or how other people are doing, and they don't know any limits whatsoever. So a couple things that I've developed over the years, which have actually worked really, really well. First, obviously, getting to know the other person, you're kind of already going to know what they can deal with and what they don't want to deal with or what they won't deal with, right? That's just part of getting to know somebody. But being respectful of someone else is actually asking them. And one of the things is, do you have the time and emotional capacity to listen to me vent? Or talk me through a hard time? Asking that simple question A rules out two things. Number one, do they have the time? So you're not going to have hurt feelings if they're in the middle of a business meeting or they're with family or they're at a party and they can't just walk out and go take your phone call, right? You have no right to explode on them if they're like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not in a place that I can actually talk right now, or message. Number two, are they emotionally capable of handling your vent session that you want to have? Just because you want to vent doesn't mean that they want to hear your vent or that they're even capable emotionally of handling it. Everyone's going through something. And some of us are in the boat and we're doing great, and we're the ones who are holding our hands out and pulling people out of the sea, right? But some people are literally in the sea with life jackets on, holding on for dear life. And if you put one more thing on their plate, they are going to lose it. So being respectful of not only their time, it is the most precious thing that we have, time, but also being considerate of where they're at emotionally. And I know for some people, you're going to hear this and you're going to think, oh, all this new age stuff. I'm telling you, everybody has emotions. It's 2023. Let's keep it real. If you don't want to ask in the way that I said, make it some other way that you feel comfortable doing it so that it doesn't sound so psychobabble mumbo jumbo to you. I have plenty of male friends who are not exactly the most emotionally vulnerable speakers or sharers. And we found fun ways that we can say things together and have a little joke about it. And they can be honest with if they can handle it or not. And they don't feel like they just had a moment that makes them feel insecure. So there are other ways you can phrase it, is what I'm saying. But figure that out on your own. What works best for you. Now, one of the big things in friendship is people getting their feelings hurt. And again, if you have these simple little things in place, A, you're going to save your feelings from being hurt if your friends are doing them with you. But also, likewise, you're going to save other people having hurt feelings if you're enacting this with them. And something as simple as asking, do you have the time and do you have the emotional capacity to handle me vent or me whine or whatever it is that you need to do at the time. Or even brainstorm. Some people don't have time for that. Some people don't want to be there for that. Or some people are like, I've heard this vent session 985 times. I don't want to be here for it. I don't want to spend any more time or energy on it. You need to talk to somebody else or do something about it. And that, again, is part of communicating. This also caveats into my next point, which is telling the truth. Being honest and being vulnerable is hard, but it is something that true friends do. And I get it. We don't want to always be vulnerable. And so this is why you're going to be choosy who you're vulnerable with. Don't just expect everyone's your friend, because the truth is most people aren't. So you really have to delve deeper and make sure that whoever you're choosing to open up to, A, wants to reciprocate that, but also wants to be honest and vulnerable with you as much as you want to be honest and vulnerable with them. If you are not honest in your friendship, then you are lying, especially if you are asking the other person for advice, sympathy, compassion, or empathy. And I know that was a lot. So, situation, okay? Friend A wants a pity party. And friend B doesn't know anything that's going on. So goes, well, of course I'm here for you. Like, what's going on? Wants to do the friendship pep talk, right? And friend A, instead of saying, well, I was a real SOB at home and my significant other got really, really upset and we ended up having a fight. Instead of saying the truth, which what happened, right? They lie and they connive and they manipulate and they leave just enough out of the story so that the way it's being told is now a lie and makes them sound like the victim. So their friend is giving them, oh my goodness, why would they do that to you? I'm so sorry. They're awful. You don't deserve that. But in reality, it's a lie. All that compassion, all that empathy, all that advice that you're being given is based on a falsehood because you're not telling both sides of the story. So a true friend is going to smell a little bit of BS and they are going to say, hey, wait a minute. That doesn't really sound like something your spouse would do. Like, that's kind of odd behavior, assuming you know the spouse, right? Ask probative questions. And if things don't math, if the math ain't mathin', well, then you're missing some information. And usually people will eventually tell on themselves, and then you get the full picture, and that's when you as a friend can be completely honest. Like, hey, I understand when you called me, you're really, really upset at the situation, and I get it. You're in your feels. You guys had an argument. I get that. But, in this situation, like, do you see where you messed up? Do you see why your spouse got a little ticked off because you did X, Y, and Z? Like, I get it. Maybe it wasn't the best moment for that to happen for you, and that's part of being a friend, is calling someone out on their stuff. And that's being honest. Now, here's something that I've done, and it's worked wonders. Okay, because you never want to go at someone full throttle, especially if they're not emotionally able to take it. So what I have started doing is when someone comes to me and they're in an extremely emotionally heightened situation, right, or their emotions are running high, and the vent session is started, and, all this verbal stuff is coming out, I will usually start asking questions, try and bring the levels down a little bit. And then when they want advice or want how I feel on the matter, I will say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I'm sugarcoating it so much that your blood sugar level is going to spike, or 10, I'm being brutally direct and honest. What scale do you want me to be right now? What number on the scale do you want me to be? And I can tell you, I have some really, really bold friends who have said, I want you to keep it a 10 with me. And I have. And I don't pull punches. I have been brutally honest. And it's uncomfortable because every part of me, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but, you got to call a spade sometimes. And so I will be very blunt and direct and honest with them if they ask me to give them a 10. Most of the time, though, depending on where they're at, they're going to be honest with you and they're going to say, give me a 5, or, you know what, I need more cuddles right now, so make it like a 1 or a 2. And then you're able to convey the information in a way that they're able to take. And usually when they want it a little more sugar-coated, it's usually because they already know their part to play in the situation. So they're taking a little bit of acceptance and responsibility. They just need more of a shoulder to cry on at the moment versus the tough love taskmaster. On the adverse, though, there are times, people, and situations that, as previously mentioned, you've heard this 936 times before. You're sick of it. The person vents and vents and vents about it and does absolutely nothing. They make no changes. They strive to do absolutely nothing about the situation. Every piece of advice that you'd offered them, everything you've tried to do to help them, they have adamantly refused, and or they start to lie and said, I've tried that and it didn't work. When you get to that point with people, that's when you start having those harder conversations and start setting hard boundaries. And that's when you say, hey, I am not your emotional recycle center. You don't get to come here and dump all of your negative, venti energy and words on me so you feel better. But I'm still left with the fact that you've done nothing about your issue situation and yet I'm the one you always call to complain about it. So if you can respect me enough, please don't talk to me about that anymore, and or do something about it. And I'm not going to lie, you might have a little tiff with a friend. You guys might not speak for a little bit. Hopefully, wish them the best, that they'll end up finding new friends, or they'll eventually get to the point where everyone's told them the same thing and they will actually work on the issue. But in this work, you are going to run across energy sappers and energy drainers. They do not want to get better. They do not want to resolve their issues. All they want to do is complain, and misery loves company. So please beware. Have good boundaries. If you know you're at your absolute limit, I guarantee you, by you not answering the phone, or you saying, I'm not able to talk right now, or I don't have the capacity to handle this conversation right now, if they get mad at you because they're not respecting your time and energy, the question is, are they being a real friend to you? Because you can be a real friend to other people, and they're not a reciprocal friend to you. I have a lot of those. And I will let them know where they stand, or I have in many situations, and we either continue on with that way or they make changes. It is what it is. At a point, you don't want to keep dumping energy into someone who is giving you droplets back. That's not fair. Friendship is reciprocal. If they are not there to show up and help you as much as you're helping them and showing up for them, that's not a reciprocal friendship. And yes, friendships go up and down. There's going to be times where one person's down, one person's up, and it's, one person helping the other. And then eventually things should even out. And if the time so happens, then it's the adverse. It's when it's never the adverse. That's an issue. The next subject is friends are not options. It's a give situation. If it's unbalanced, it's not fair. If the other person is always taking, or if you're the one who's always taking, that is selfish. And that is not true friendship. If you are constantly taking from other people, and you are not giving back, that is not being a true friend. And that's something that you have to look within yourself and look within other people. Because again, it comes back to knowing yourself. If you truly feel that everyone around you is just taking from you, I want you to stop real quick. And I want you to start making an honest list. No one has to see it, just you. I want you to write your friends' names down, and I want you to write all the things you've done for them, right? Just get it all out, all the things you feel like you do for them. But then on the next column, I want you to write all the things that they have honest to goodness done for you. And I want you to see how they weigh out. Because I've been in some weird situations where it's very obvious one person is doing all the heavy lifting and the other person is just taking. And then when the taker is actually called out on it, they do this gaslighting manipulation swap and make the one little thing that they did that one time, because it behooved them in some fashion, and they make that like it's the biggest thing on earth. And some of these people are really good. People who are takers and selfish, they are extremely good. They have lived most of their lives doing this behavior and getting away with it. And once they suck you dry, they go on to their next person. So that, again, is why you need to seek these out and be honest. Because sometimes you're going to do the list and you're going to be like, okay, I was overreacting. This person actually does do a lot more for me than I'm giving them acknowledgement for. Then have gratitude, have that conversation. hey, I really am grateful for all these things that you've done for me. I'm just feeling in our interactions, if you could XYZ a little bit more, it would help me not to feel resentful, ungrateful, whatever the words are that match there. So hopefully that helps you with that. But again, remember, if you do the list and it is all you doing the work and it's empty on the other side, that is not a true friend, and you might want to think about putting some distance between you and that person. You can have a conversation with them and see if it can become a little more balanced. Maybe you're going to be the one person in this person's life who's finally having this conversation instead of just ghosting them. But if you have the conversation, they do the manipulation, the gaslighting to you, that's when it's time to be done with it. And if it causes a fight and they walk away thinking, well, I really told them, and that they were the one that pulled the trigger on the friendship, let them have that moment and just walk away and be thankful that you walked away with yourself intact. As I said earlier, not everyone is your friend. Now, a couple of other things that show up in friendship. There's no ownership, there's no jealousy, and there's no control. Okay, it's very, very easy for people to think, oh, well, you're my best friend, so you can't have any other best friends, or you can't have any other friends. No. First of all, that's control. Major red flag. Say no. Walk away. Ownership. Listen, I have necklaces with friends, where we have half of the heart that says best friends or best witch or whatever cute little thing that we have. I've had t-shirts, with friends before, cute little things. That's not ownership. That's, we both agree to it. But ownership and control and jealousy is the big one, right? Ownership and control, those are pretty easy for you to stake out. In reality, if you're not dating the person, if they're not romantic in your life, and they don't get to control you and they don't get to own you. Even if this friend is part of your family, okay, still doesn't give them the right. My channel is made for adults only, so hopefully only people over the age of 18 are listening to this. If you're under the age of 18, hopefully you're listening to this with a parent or a consenting adult who put this on. But I'm telling you right now, ownership and jealousy and control are not harbingers of good friendships. I have had toxic friends in the past. I've had toxic friendships. I have had them go from bad to worse, to the point where getting out of them was much akin to what some people probably feel trying to get out of a bad relationship. So see the warning flags, see the signs, and get out, put boundaries, okay? Hopefully you don't live with them. Jealousy is kind of a weird one because some people just don't know any better. The jealousy is so ingrained within their being that they don't know how to not be jealous, if that makes sense. It's very hard of a concept for me because jealousy is something I don't understand. When I see someone else doing well or succeeding, whether I know them or not, I'm excited and I'm happy for them. I don't understand wanting to put them down because they're doing well. But it is something that I've seen, and I can tell you that it gets very murky and ugly within friendships. Typically, very jealous people will start using ownership and control to put you down, and by bringing you down a few pegs and dropping your self-esteem, again, it's like a bad relationship, it reduces you. And a true friend is there to uplift you. They are not there to make you feel worse. They're the friend that they're being honest with you, right? Does that outfit look good on you? Be an honest, good friend and let them know yes or no. And I don't mean just fashion wise. I mean, okay, hey, that really shows off this, that, and the other, which is awesome, but it also shows this, which like isn't the best. And then give them the opportunity to say, I don't care if it shows that, that's fine. I would rather have someone tell me if I have can't believe I'm gonna say this on an actual video for all of eternity, but if I have a booger in my nose, tell me. Don't let me walk around with that and be embarrassed. A true friend is going to do that. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've been in a store and I've seen someone who, their tags hanging out of the back of their shirt, and I'll either let them know or, if I somewhat know them and I'm comfortable, I'll just put it in for them. I cannot tell you the number of times I've been in, the ladies' room and helped another girl, whether it's toilet paper on the shoe or, hey, sweetie, your lipstick's a little smeared or you've got eyeliner over here. Don't let them walk out looking like that, okay? And these are perfect strangers to people you know. So if I'm willing to do that to a perfect stranger, of course I'm going to give that same love to people that I call my friends. Because just like I hope you wouldn't let me go out there and make a total fool of myself, I don't want to let you do the same. So let's support and uplift each other. And you can do that in a way that doesn't tear somebody down, right? There's always a way. Now this last one, this is going to be for my more, pardon the term because it's all I know how to call it, my more typical male-brained folks. And I mean male-brained because I've been accused of having male brain once in a while as well. When someone wants to vent, they don't want you to problem solve. Okay? But problem solvers, which unfortunately because I'm older, that used to be termed male-brained. So now you get where I'm coming from with that. Typically, when someone wants to vent, they just want to get it all out. They don't want you interrupting them. They just want to blah, 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 let me just vent. Okay? Then at the end, you can problem solve or you can ask questions, etc. But in a good friendship, when the person starts and if you start to interrupt and they say, just let me get it all out, that's them telling you, don't ask me any questions. Don't try and problem solve this. Just let me get this all out. And then at the end of it, I'll tell you what I want to do. So for some of you, you're going to have to turn part of your brain off because for me, I'm a problem solver. So automatically when someone starts venting, I want to start putting all the pieces together to start fixing it. And I have to literally turn down that part of my brain so that I can just sit there, listen with compassion, empathy, let the person get it all out. And then at the end say, okay, where do you want from here? Do you want hugs? Do you want a problem solved? Do you want advice? And again, if they know themselves well, and hopefully they do, then they'll be able to reciprocate and tell you what it is that they want. And then you don't have miscommunications and everyone feels oh so good at the end of the day. And here's one of the final notes that I want to end on, okay? And this is a little more of a serious note. When you're friends with someone, when you sign up for that, whether you're going to be friends forever or friends for the next 5 minutes, if someone confides something in you, okay, if they take the time and the vulnerability to confide something in you, you do not have the right to weaponize that against them and put them on blast and tell other people and make fun of them or whatever the case may be. That is private, confidential information. if that friendship ends in a bad way, like let's say you guys have a big old fight and a big old blow up, you still do not weaponize that information. I have had more than a few situations where I know a lot about another person, and we have an argument and we're not talking and they're really, really mad. And this one situation in particular, we ended up making up. And when we were in the making up process, they were like, oh, well, by the way, I told so-and-so, X, Y, and Z that I had known privately. And I said, well, why would you have gone and done that? Like, I thought the whole point was for them never to know that. And they said, well, because we were in a fight and I thought you would tell them. And I looked at them quizzically because I did not understand. I said, do you really think just because we were in an argument that I would go and spread your private business to other people? For what means? Like, to get back at you? And they were like, well, yeah, we were in a fight and we were both mad. And I said, so are you telling me that that's what you would do with anything I told you? Like, if you were mad at me, that automatically you would just go out and start telling other people my private business because you're mad at me? Something that I told you in confidence, or something that I wouldn't want out there in the world? It's private. I had a vulnerable moment and I told you I wouldn't want the world to know it necessarily, right? And they were like, well, yeah. And whoa, red flag, right? Like I said, people normally tell on themselves. So in this moment, when this happened, besides both my eyebrows probably going to the back of my head being raised so high, I was shocked. Because, and I'm not saying this because, oh, I'm such a great, nice person. I was shocked because I couldn't imagine, even if I'm that mad at the person, regardless of what the circumstances are, whether we're ever going to be friends again or not, I wouldn't do that. And knowing that there are people out there in the world who would happily do that. And I mean, we see it in the news. We see people go to the media when people divorce or, things happen and someone spills all the tea. And like, I get it that it happens. I'm not naive. I don't know. I guess for whatever reason, I thought that happened in a much different kind of world than I lived in. And I was kind of shocked, to be honest. And I understand that people have this expectation of, well, I've got to stay on your good side because you know too much. And we should never feel like that with our friends. Like I said, whether that friendship is for 5 minutes or for the rest of our lives, if you are vulnerable and tell someone something in confidence, please, 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 if someone has done that to you, do not weaponize that. Be the better and bigger person and keep it confidential. You had love for that person at one point, regardless of what happened and how ugly things get. And hey, there are some situations that things get really ugly, and I get that, right? And one might say they deserve it. I'm not that type of person. And I would ask all of you to please just triple think that. Think of the ramifications. Think about the karma. Would you want someone doing that to you? And usually the answer is no. So at the end of the day, the golden rule really, really stands. Do unto others as you would have them do to you. To wrap this up, I actually want to read a Bible verse. It's 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. And it's funny because this normally gets read at weddings, which I get it, right? It has the word love in it. But you love your friends. And all of you out there have big, huge, wonderful hearts, and I know that. So please, if you're listening to this and this resonates with you, I ask you to be the shining star of an example of a true friend and show that to other people. And let's emanate this out, and hopefully let's exponentially grow the number of true friends out there and reteach people the lost art of friendship. Thank you so much for your time and your energy in listening to this. I wish you all the absolute best. All my love.